What's going on, everybody? It's the Fantasy First Rounders. I'm your host, Chris Pinto. I'm working with this light over here. It keeps on shutting off on me. We're going to try to make it happen. We're going to try to make it go through. Tonight, welcome to the Draft Talk for 2021. This is the rookie recalculation. Here we go. Guys, it wouldn't be the Fantasy First Rounders if we did not have the opening from FF Peacock. Shout out to Miles, man. Hopefully you had a great birthday over the weekend, man. Here you go. All right, everybody. We're the Fantasy First Rounders. I've already had to click this light off and on 4 times during FF Peacock's intro. Guys, I'm your host at Aggie Kappa Sig, Chris Pinto. With me tonight are my cohorts in crime, 2 of the best tight end fantasy minds in the game right now. I got my boy at Real Ryan Hicks, and at BWhitt24, man. What's going on, guys? How was your Easter weekend, first and foremost, guys?
I think Ryan's on mute.
Dang, I wasn't the one that it happened to this time. That's how you know it's going to be a good show, when at the beginning I don't mess up. Maybe it's just, well, my lighting over here keeps turning off on me. You can see me coming in and out of everything. Billy, how was your Easter weekend, man?
It went well, man. We kept it low-key, stayed at home, and didn't do a whole lot, which was kind of nice, just to take some time to relax. Worked on the yard a little bit as a family. All good stuff. How about you, man?
So, I mean, we went to LaGrange, obviously, and spent the weekend with the family over there. Sent y'all some pictures of the good food and all the golfing that we did, stuff like that. My nephew, man, he's about to be, I think, 10 years old. Or he is going to... 3 days, he's 10 years old. So, Adrian, we already sang you happy birthday, but man, 3 days, the big 1-0. And he's like, oh, my light keeps going off. I don't understand what's going on here. But, man, the dude's already almost as tall as me. So, he is a Texas quarterback in the making and already a soccer superstar. So, Adrian, man, happy birthday in 3 weeks or 3 days. This thing keeps turning off, man. I don't understand. Ryan,
can y'all hear me?
Man. Oh, yeah.
Y'all hear me? Okay,
perfect.
Good. Yeah, so I just was busy for Easter. Easter's really busy my way, and we're staying busy now. This is a busy time of the year for me. But it was nice. The weather was pretty good. I really enjoyed Easter, but I've been pumped to talk about rookies. I've been waiting to talk about rookies.
Obviously, man, our rookie stuff is going to be top-notch. I mean, obviously, we're without our hot take honcho over here. Shout out to Jibs. Obviously, I took that from you. But fresh out the dryer, Tom, man. Hopefully he's back with us next week, feeling fresh, feeling good. Prayers for everything for Tom, man. Love you, brother. But we're going to talk about rookies. It's we got less than 30 days until the draft? So this 4 weeks is going to be jam-packed with rookie stats, knowledge, film watching that you guys been doing, and keeping me on my toes on my stuff. And it's funny how things correlate. We'll talk about that later. But at the end of this, 5-5, we're going to be returning with our friend of the show, Marcus Grant. Second time he's coming back on. He's going to be going over everything about the draft and how that affects everything on 5-5. So super quick after the draft, Marcus Grant will be with us. It's going to be awesome. So, guys, let's talk about 3 tight ends before we get into the quarterbacks. Every week, guys, we'll talk about 3 tight ends before we talk about the meat of the show. Just because obviously tight ends are important. The landscape is so barren in the NFL. There's a big tight end class coming, and you guys are the ones that were like, we gotta talk about tight ends. So first, the guy that I thought was top 3, top 4 in the tight end category is Brevin Jordan, man. Out of the U, our guy Scott Davis always loves the U, the junior, 6'3", 245 out of the U. Miami tight end, man. He's a dynamic guy where he kind of like is one of those guys that trusts the process, right? Every year he's gotten incrementally better when you look at his stats. And he can block first and foremost. That's what you want. He's a starting tight end in my mind in the NFL. The breakout year, right, guys, is about 3 years. But I'm looking at Brevin Jordan as probably breaking out sooner because in college, he broke out at the age of 18. As a career average, he had 35 receptions per season, 452.7 yards. And like I mentioned, they keep on increasing year after year. So this is a guy that I'm really interested in, especially where he goes. I mean, for me, if he ends up, I don't know, like Arizona, I want that tight end. Ryan, Billy, you guys take it over on Brevin.
Well, man, I mean, obviously he's quick. He's quick. Like that's what I like about him. He's a quick guy, very fast as well. He's a great athlete. I see the most guy that I see like him is an Evan Ingram type of guy, but maybe a stronger, more athletic version. Maybe not quite so top end fast, but I see a lot of similarities there. He's very dangerous in the open field. He finishes strong. He plays a little bit bigger than his weight says. He doesn't really go down easy. I like this, but he does have that tight end speed to take the top off of a defense. He's like a taller running back almost. That's when I see him moving with the ball, he looks like a taller running back. Sometimes he catches in his body, but he still catches. Like he still makes the catch. I wish he'd get a little more catching away from his body, but otherwise he has sure hands. Some of the faults that I see seem coachable. He's got great leg power. He's a little bit tight as an athlete, in my opinion, but not like to a fault. Sometimes when I watch him run, he looks a little bit too like bound to himself, less loose, but nothing that I would be complaining about. Billy, what are you thinking, man?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. He's an awkwardly good athlete. Like, it doesn't look smooth. He's got a little bit of wiggle, kind of like when Antonio Gates came back and played football later on, but he was a little overweight, just not quite the same wiggle. Kind of reminds me of that guy. He can use his body for spacing, catches the ball in traffic, but a lot better route runner than I think he's being touted as. I think that's his real strength, is he just has an ability to get open. And he's 6'3", 245, and this guy's, honestly, 3 years of consistent production, to Chris's point. Started as a freshman, sophomore, junior, same guy. I think this guy really has a chance to be one of those young guys that does step into the NFL and have some production early. I think he has a great potential to grow into a legitimate pass-catching guy. Evan Ingram, that's a great kind of analogy for me. Same type of guy. Evan seems like a more smooth athlete, but Brevin gets it done in just kind of a similar fashion. He's a very decorated player too. All kinds of all kinds of awards down there playing in the ACC. So a guy that people have known about for a while as a very good football player.
Yeah, Tom would probably say something about the U and how they're not good, blah, 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 blah. Tom, we'll get you back next time, though. The next guy that we want to move on to pretty quickly, right, is, I mean, he wasn't even on my radar until I looked at Ryan's notes on him, and I was like, okay, let me dig a little bit deeper on Quentin Morris. He has had back-to-back really good seasons, 2018, 2019, right? His numbers dwindled a little bit in the first 5 games, but that's not very, I mean, like I mentioned, right, the tight end landscape is barren, so he's developmental in my mind, but I think that he could ascend depending on situation. I mean, we're talking about we're talking about guys like Ian Thomas on the regular, Chris Herndon, who is a phenomenal talent, but has yet to produce. Last year, who we were talking about, Drew Sample and Jeremy Sprinkle, Dalton Schultz. This guy, in my mind, is more talented than those guys. So what do you guys think?
It kind of reminds me of like a Julius Thomas. He's kind of a slight build tight end, kind of an athletic guy, but under the radar because he's at a smaller school at Bowling Green. So just not a guy that I've had a ton of exposure to. So like you said, I kind of had to go do some digging on this guy. But 4 years on the field is the first thing that jumps out to me when I dig into Quentin's career at Bowling Green. He played as a freshman and just continued to get better. Consistent production. He catches the ball in traffic really, really well. And for the right offense, to your point, Chris, I think this is a guy that could be a steal in this draft. If he goes to a team that throws the ball around, like, a New Orleans type system, he would be a really good asset and could have some relatively decent production early. Obviously, rookie tight ends don't do a ton, it seems, but this is a guy that situationally could be a star sooner than later.
Yeah, this guy, I remember watching some of the tape the first time after looking at his stats, not being that impressed. If and I know we don't have a combine, but he might have a faster 40. I'm having him at 4.6. That's faster than Brevin Jordan. This guy is a red zone weapon. He's a very good athlete. He makes those contested catches. He plays even bigger than his big body is. He has great hands. Also, he can block. Again, I reiterated the really great hands in my notes. He really did make some good catches. He snags the ball out of the air. He goes and gets it. He has a large catch radius. I think this guy's a sleeper. I'm looking at him, and I'm going to be kind of scooping him up later in the drafts because I don't think the last thing I put is I might love this guy. I don't think he's getting the love that he deserves for his athleticism because he went to BG, man. Like, he didn't have everybody saw him every Sunday. So for me, Quentin Morris is the type of guy, man. I really do think he's going to be a contributor earlier than that 3 years, man, because he's an athlete, man. And especially with he has a large target radius. He gets up there for those balls.
Okay, last guy we're going to talk about before we get into the quarterbacks, because I'm about to get on SportsMe and answer Robbie real quick. He just woke up from a nap, so shout out to Robbie, man, always on the grind. Whoa, what's going on, Travis Sumter? What's going on, brother? Man, always love to have Travis in the chat. He's obviously going to give us some good tidbits and some good knowledge here. We'll obviously talk about you in the chat, Travis. But the third tight end, guys, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm a huge Flash fan. Barry Allen, love him. The last name, Wells. I mean, if you never watch a show, obviously Dr. Wells is the major character in it. So this guy, when I saw him, I was like, Pro Wells out of TCU. Let's go, man. Then I dig into him a little bit. I mean, standout basketball player, dual athlete, right? Basketball, football, kind of like a Jimmy Graham, right? Like you guys are comping, right? So I'll jump on board for a little bit. But you got this guy who is a basketball, football, dual athlete who committed to Marshall. Go Marshall, man. We are Marshall. And then opted to go the JUCO route to play both football, right? Went to Northwest Mississippi Junior College. And then coming to TCU. So a journey for this guy, which you like, right? You like the development. You like the growth in not only his character, but probably also like his mental state. A lot of comps to a developmental year 3 guy, but like Ryan mentioned earlier with Quentin, I think this guy is going to ascend a little bit quicker. His breakout age was 21, but that's only because he didn't get to TCU until 3 years down the road. When you look at like some of his quote unquote stats or whatnot, his BMI is 30.88. So a lot of people don't like BMI. They frown upon it, but I'm going to look at all things encompassing these guys, especially when I don't know them too well. On a height, he's a 75, weight 249. I mean, his hand size alone is a 9.38. So, I mean, he's got some big paws on him. He's not some normal average size bear. And then when I look at his career average, this is where it gets interesting, right? His career average. His reception yards per game were not great, but you got to think where it came from is 21.5. That increase over 3 years is crazy because of his college denominator of 20.12%. This guy, Pro Wells, I think he's going to be a phenom quicker than we think. Obviously, placement is everything like we talk about, and we could not be talking about him in 3 months. But as of right now, I think he's a top prospect. At this particular moment, I have him just outside my top 10 at 11, actually, but there's not a lot to go with on this guy. He doesn't have that much footage to watch, period. He has 32 catches in 3 years. It's just not a lot to go on. He also, if I'm not mistaken, ran a 4.83 in the 40, which doesn't excite me, but that's not really who he is. So that's not a concerning thing for me. He high points the ball really well. I did see a lot of times where he gets up and gets the ball. He had a really impressive touchdown catch with one hand. That's the one thing that I started, whoa, this guy's got he's got some jumps. He's got some range.
I see him more as well as like a red zone target. He does seem to get really open. For not being that fast, there was a lot of the film that I watched where he was like 10 to 15 yards open, and I don't see how he had that happen if he's just running a 4.3. But again, that's just track speed. These are not combine times. These are pro day times. I don't like them very much. But with Pro Wells, I'm going to need a little more exposure to him to get him to work up the board, because I do think there are some guys with at least as good a ceiling and maybe a little bit safer floor just due to his lack of volume.
Yeah, so I've watched a ton of Pro Wells because I watch TCU every week. Quarterback Max Duggan, as a hometown kid, went to school with my son here in Council Bluffs, Iowa. So Pro Wells is one of those guys that does a lot of blocking because of the offense that he's in, but he's actually a lot better pass catcher than the tight end that you typically see in that run-heavy offense. TCU led the Big 12 in rushing last year. Pro Wells, big part of that in the blocking game. The reason he gets so wide open is because he runs out of the block and release so well, and he is just amazing at finding space. You really see that basketball player come out in him when he's running down the field or positioning himself in the red zone, with that big body to just create space for a ball to get to him. I think he's a really good player. Being a guy that blocks first, I do think that he could get on the field earlier than people might think, and he's very underrated as a pass catcher, like you said, Ryan. Limited receptions and statistics. I mean, really, like you said, he only caught 30-some passes in 3 years at TCU. But like I said, that offense, they don't throw the ball a ton. 450-ish yards, I think, led that team in receiving last year. But Pro Wells led that team in receiving touchdowns last year. Only 3, however, but they don't throw the ball a lot, especially when they're in close. I really like Pro Wells as a prospect. He flashes if you watch TCU. You kind of forget about him, and he makes a play where you're like, whoa, that guy's a really good player. Why don't they throw to him more?
Yeah, tight ends are tough to get after in college, man. You really have to trust your eyeballs because the stats are not going to tell you what you want to see there, especially in a run. Yeah, it's again, you can see his big body, you can see his high pointing. I like those things. I just think that I need more to move him higher up my board right now. There's a little unknown for me.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this real quick, because you know how I feel about this. What if Pro Wells is the first drafted tight end by Cliff Kingsbury?
He'll be this year's Hawkinson.
Ooh, I don't know. There's a lot of weapons out there that he's going to have to compete with. Hopkins is going to get his. But yeah, I would like to see an Arizona tight end is going to be more valuable to me than most other places.
Well, this is what we have everyone tuned in for, guys. Obviously, this is the rookie recalculation because we're leading up to the draft. We're going to talk about these guys in depth. A lot of people have already talked about these guys. Well, we've got a lot more knowledge, obviously, because there's a lot more time on our side. So we're going to talk about 14 different quarterbacks tonight, where we rank them as a consensus, and then obviously as individuals, how we think they're going to affect their situation, because we can talk a little bit more about some, but how we feel is a fantasy asset, because that's why we're all here. We're the fantasy first rounders. We're here to win you ships, man. Stats win ships. Fantasy first rounders will help you do that. We're going to dive into it. The 1.01 consensus quarterback across the board, guys. Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson. The junior standing 6'6", 220 pounds. I mean, AKA Sunshine. He's a franchise quarterback in my mind, obviously, in all of our minds, right? Lawrence can fit whatever scheme is out there because his skill set is so great, right? He can do everything correctly. He pushes the ball down the field. He uses his athleticism to his ability because he knows how to work everything. It's very crazy because he blends the elite physical gifts along with his smart QB IQ. I can't wait for his Wonderlic to come out. But Lawrence, in my mind, is, as you guys too, I mean, I'm talking about him because I just have my notes, right? But the intangibles are just there for T-Law, man. I mean, you just can't say enough about this kid. He's a premier talent. I guess he's the one guy that you could say, and obviously I read this from the Draft Network, and I loved it, so I'm going to use it. So Draft Network, good on you. It's like one of those questions when someone asks you when you're applying for a job, what is your one weakness? Trevor Lawrence's one weakness is he has room to grow. I mean, his ceiling is like I say this to my guys, Lil Wayne, no ceilings with this kid, because you get a great football coach with him, a great quarterback coach, great weapons. The ceiling is no limits for Trevor Lawrence. And he essentially just kills everything. You look at his career averages, and he's at the top 3 across the board. And I mean, look, the TD to interception ratio is top 3. The air yards, he's top 2. A raw QBR rating, he is number 1 in the NFL, like if you're calculating it that way. Trevor Lawrence's numbers are crazy. The kid is crazy. He's consensus 1.0, and I don't think there's any much more that you guys could really add, and I should just stop talking. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we all ranked him 1 in our top 12. We had a top 12. That's how we got to 14, JB. We all had a top 12, and there was 2 extra guys that weren't in everybody's top 12. So that's how we wound up with 14. But, yeah, Lawrence, it's a no-brainer to me. He makes some incredible throws. I don't think he has like the same kind of ceiling as like an Andrew Luck type of a player, but he's as safe as they get in this draft. This is the safest option. You like what you see. You take him as the QB1, move on.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big game Bob, too. We've seen him play some of his best football in some of the biggest games. Mega arm, athletic, grade A size, yearly progression in completion percentage, yards per attempt, and QBR, even though people thought that he kind of had a down year this past season, which, in some measures, rightfully so. He's NFL ready and has been for a while, you guys. I mean, this guy's been chalked up as the number 1 pick in this draft for 2, maybe 3 years. Athletically quicker, maybe rather than fast, but he can break some runs if you get out of position. The only weaknesses you can really find is he can be off at times. People question his ability under pressure, but ultimately, you're nitpicking and deep diving for a play where, right there, that's the one bad throw this half kind of situation for him. So the small potatoes when you weigh it against all the positives, like you said, sky's the ceiling with this guy. Situationally, he might be the type of guy that could change the trajectory of an organization for sure.
Ryan, before you go real quick, I want to shout out Hutchinson Brown, man. This kid is what I should have been when we were 14. Kid is 14, super into fantasy right now. He's jumping into it. Y'all got to go check out his new podcast called The Young Fantasy Mind, because the kid is like a savant essentially, and he's gaining knowledge talking to guys like us, guys that are better than us, guys that are not as good as us, right? Just encompassing everybody. I'm just, I'm saying, Marcus Grant was talking to us on 5'5", so Marcus Grant's a little bit better than us. But what I mentioned is earlier in our SportsMe app, guys, go download the SportsMe app. Trevor Lawrence breakout year was at age 19. Hutchinson, young guy too. Trevor Lawrence, man, I mentioned this to you guys. Actually, him and Justin Fields have the same amount of starting gigs, but Trevor Lawrence broke out before Justin Fields. I kind of like those little tidbits and stuff like that. And I'm sorry, Ryan, you go ahead.
I said some of this stuff. That the thing that I wanted to reiterate that Billy said is, man, he is a gamer. In big games, he makes big plays. Now, he did have a couple off games, but I like to see him come back. I'm not concerned with it. This was a weird year in college football. I saw enough from Trevor Lawrence last year to know I was going to like him as the QB1. So all this year was just gravy. My only little baby concern is that was a really talented team around him. And sometimes you can get tricked by stuff like that, but I don't really think that's the case here at all.
Ooh, I was about to do it. I was on mute. I was about to do it. Well, we're going to go to our consensus number 2 guy right now, because Trevor Lawrence, obviously, nothing can be more said. We know he's going to go to the Jags. If you're in a super flex league, right, and you have the 1.01 in a rookie draft, you're going to take Trevor Lawrence most likely. So, yeah, Trevor Lawrence, lock and load. Our number 1.02 guy out of the Ohio State. I'm talking about, Justin Fields, guys. Justin Fields stands 6'3", 223. Obviously, he's a franchise quarterback where everyone else sees him. He's a hybrid type of quarterback right now. When we talk about hybrids, obviously Trevor Lawrence has the footwork and he can move the chains, right? But Justin Fields adds a little bit more faster, a little bit more RPO-ness. He has a great blend of throwing ability and he makes decent reads if he can. That RPO thing is going to be his bag, though, in my mind, because when we look at everything from Justin Fields, he's more of a diverse back, right? Or a diverse quarterback, you would say. And when you're looking at career totals, 423 completion passes. That's 15.5 per game because they're running the ball a lot, but 5,700 yards, 67 touchdowns. The QB to interception ratio is really, really low. 1.7 actually, or I'm sorry, 1.8, which makes him top 3 in the class. You got to like this from Justin Fields. What are you guys seeing about Justin Fields, and anything that's standoffish to you that would think that he wouldn't end up in New York?
I really like Justin Fields. Big Ten guy. I watched a lot of his games. Completed 70% of his passes last year, which is really impressive in the Big Ten. There's a lot of good defense being played. He's a kind of has the rep for being a running quarterback, but he really isn't. If you watch his game, I mean, he can run. Don't get me wrong, and he will slaughter you. But he's more tactful with his legs. He plays quarterback from the pocket. He moves when he's first getting out of the pocket. His eyes are downfield. A lot of the time, still looking to throw before he just commits to the run. He's an unquestionable leader, and he's really tough to bring down in the pocket. Really strong lower body. You'll see him get out of a lot of sacks that, once a lot of guys are in the grasp, they don't get out of. He's just a pretty strong guy. But there will be growing pains with him in the NFL. And like you said, the RPO is kind of his deal. The offensive system is going to be ever so important for a guy like Justin Fields. I have him as my QB2 as well, with all you guys as our consensus, but I do have Zach Wilson kind of nipping at his heels for that reason only.
Yeah, I have him as QB3 behind Wilson. Me and Tom do. Y'all two have him at 2. So, I mean, it's close. I agree. It's super close. With Fields, I get stuck in ways sometimes where I don't like Ohio State quarterbacks. I don't like USC quarterbacks. Stuff like that will get me where I'm like, tired of getting tricked by these guys. That being said, this is a different animal. He's much more accurate than any of the other Ohio State quarterbacks before him. Over the last 10 years, he's got the highest accuracy. I want to see that. He's also might be one of the best athletes, and considering the guys who they have, that's pretty impressive too. But for Fields, for me, the reason I see a lot of Kyler comps, like as far as what Kyler's able to do, I understand. I don't agree either, but I'm not saying he is Kyler. I'm saying he's the closest thing in the NFL to him right now is Kyler, because he does have the accuracy and he does have the quickness to be able to get. No, I agree. He's not Kyler. You'll never hear me say he's Kyler. But
like him as like a Dak.
Ooh, Dak's big, man. Dak is a fullback. I can't get over his size sometimes. Whereas this guy is more like, again, nobody is Kyler with quickness, but he might be the second quickest quarterback in the NFL. Him and Lamar will be right there. I think he's been inconsistent. Yeah, I agree. He's going to – the QB stigma, they really do suck, and I don't think this guy will. But he needs to work on his consistency a little bit. He's capable of enormous plays. He also had exceptional talent around him. And I thought every once in a while he relied too much on his athleticism. And when he would be on the run, he would lose a little bit of accuracy, stuff that you can fix. But when I was watching, I liked him from the pocket better. He also doesn't hit the tightest windows. But again, he's moving really fast, running the 4.4 something. His upside to me is as high or higher than everybody else in this league at the moment. I mean, in this draft at the moment. When you look at what he has and then his accuracy on top of that, yeah, of course, you're going to be salivating over the potential of this guy. I just worry about his consistency. I can't get that Ohio State thing out of my head. And again, there was a couple things that I thought, nothing that's not fixable, but a couple things that I thought pushed him just below Zach Wilson.
Well, I'm going to add a little bit of something real quick. When you take his NFL passer rating into consideration, he actually doesn't rank in the top 2. So to add to Ryan's point, he actually ranks in the in the top 5. So a little bit more, maybe his reads aren't there. But to Billy and I's point, I think the dual threat quarterback, you guys know how I love this kid. And I mean, his ADOT is out of this world, 9.3 ADOT. So he's throwing the ball down the field. He's also averaging a lot of runs per game. I like it. So, I mean, we'll just have to see where he lands, right? Because like you and Hustler said, he's going to have to break the stigma first and foremost.
And the thing is, and you always have to keep this in mind, what is this show? It's fantasy. And the rushing ability of Fields is at least as good or better than everybody in this class. He's super fast. He's elusive. So, I mean, Dynasty, I'm a little bit backed off because I don't want to see him hit so many times. But in redraft, Justin Fields with think Lamar type of a player where he really does have some wheels. He really is fast.
I really hope that Justin Fields doesn't end up in New York, just because this kid, I feel like, would be a waste there. It would be an awkward fit, a lot of pressure in New York City. I really hope he ends up somewhere a little bit different, because I think Justin Fields could be one of those guys that just has an incredible career if he can get an offense kind of tailored for him, not trying to force him to be something he isn't, because he is special and he is kind of different.
The Niners are taking Mac Jones. I think they are like saying it out loud.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I think they've been saying it out loud. I'm not positive,
The
but I
draft
think
starts at 4.
Travis, you're gonna have to be the one that tells us that, because I don't believe these guys. Sometimes, it's like April Fools all day, every day with my guys. I will say this though, I'm always looking for the next Konami code, and I think I'm not gonna say Fields is the next Konami code, because you guys know who I know is going to be it. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but we'll move on to the consensus 1.03. Zach Wilson out of BYU. Zach Wilson was a guy that I comped to Bo Callahan, and I was hoping I would get you guys on my boat with me, but the 6'3", 210 Mormon who did his time, he's good, right? Great athleticism. He knows how to identify defenses. His ability on the field is unquestionable. I mean, he can throw the ball with timing and anticipation, and it's almost at a very, very high level. He's a clutch player, right? You watch it on film, and then you look at the numbers about Zach Wilson, man. And this is where it gets me, where I'm not that impressed on him, because he doesn't really rank in the top in this class that we have on too many things. He's just really, really good, excellent, right, at a bunch of different things, which makes him very coachable. And we know that's how these BYU guys are. We know that's how he's going to be, right, in the NFL. So his landing spot is extremely important, but I think he is a day one starter wherever he really goes, right? If he doesn't end up as a day one starter, that's even better for him, because he's going to ascend to like Tom Brady greatness. But what do you guys think on Zach Wilson? Because I think both of you guys were higher on him than I was.
Yeah, you were the lowest of us, ranking him 4th. Tom and I had him 2nd. Billy had him 3rd, and then you had him 4th, which I know why you have him 4th. But for me, when I watched, when I looked at Wilson and tried to see what do I like, what do I not like, first off, his stats are outrageous. Like 73, I don't care who you're playing against and who you have around you. 73.5% completion percentage last year, a 33-3 touchdown to interception ratio. This guy also has a 17 yards per catch average. I know that sounds weird, but look, I bet he's leading the quarterbacks in that.
Great. Hey, wait, Ryan, real quick, let me ask you this. So a quarterback who has receiving stats is good, right?
I mean, I just think it shows his athleticism more than anything, or his ability to innovate.
Play the game at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, 17 yards per catch is pretty good.
So the oldest quarterback in the league who is actually number 2 in receiving for 40-year-old wide receivers is probably a GOAT, right? No. We'll talk about that later. Keep on going. I'm sorry.
I wouldn't call him
Tom Brady if everyone doesn't know who I'm talking about.
All right, so this is a very big compliment if anybody doesn't take it, but I see a lot of Minshew in this guy, a little bit bigger, like a more polished even version of Minshew. He can make every throw. He's a really good athlete. He throws off of so many different bases. Like, he doesn't need to be sitting in the pocket. He can be on the move. He can be anywhere he wants to, and he can still make accurate throws. Again, 73.5 speaks for itself. But to me, I think he might – what I like better about him is his safer floor than Fields. I don't know that he has exactly the same high of a ceiling as Fields does, but I think Wilson is a much safer pick as far as – again, I can't get over the 73.5. That is an incredible number, no matter who you're playing against. And then he had 10 rushing touchdowns this year, like on his own, 70 carries and 10 rushing touchdowns. Like, he didn't have the prolific numbers that like Fields had or even that Lawrence had, but 10 touchdowns, baby. I'm about 10 touchdowns. So for me, you think that Travis is talking about Trubisky and comparing Trubisky to Zach Wilson? I don't know about that, man. Again, 73.5% is, I don't think Trubisky's ever done that. Or 36.92. I mean, Trubisky had, and by the way, his other years weren't bad. They just weren't what they were this year. He was incredible this year.
Yeah, some serious progression statistically between years 1, 2, and that third year under center for Zach Wilson. But this is a guy, like, I didn't get to see him a whole lot playing out west, just work schedule type stuff. I did not watch BYU live a lot, so I had to go kind of dig in and kind of see what this guy was about. And I'll tell you what, this guy is fun to watch, and I kind of had that Josh Allen moment that you had, Chris, where you're like, why didn't you guys tell me this guy was this good? As I started watching him, I think, kind of the BYU bias type of thing. So one thing that sticks out, experience. He's got 30 games, he played in while at BYU. A lot of these guys that we're seeing have limited experience, and we've seen that be kind of a detriment when these guys get to the NFL with some really talented guys over the years. So the arm strength stands out for me. I mean, he can really rip it, arm angles galore, off-platform stuff. It reminds me of these baseball player guys that are playing quarterback now that we know and love. And he does it kind of with some pizzazz. You know what I mean? He's kind of fun to watch. It's kind of has a Baker Mayfield type feel. And I see a little bit of like Jay Cutler in the way he stands in the pocket, holds the ball low and releases it. It's a quick release. It comes out hard a lot, but he also shows incredible touch when need be too. Now, he does do some things sometimes where it's like, man, how did he miss that read? He'll make a throw every now and again. It's like, man, that was just like he decided he was throwing that ball there before he snapped the ball. Not going through his progression. But I think those are things that a quarterback coach, any quarterback coach believes, they can get rid of some of these little things. So I really like the way he really ascended that last year. 10 rushing touchdowns let you know that he can kind of be a threat in the red zone too. I like him. I just really hope he ends up in the right situation. I think he's going number 2 to the Jets, and I don't hate that situation for him.
That's fair. I mean, we're really splitting hairs with these top 4 guys, I believe. But I mean, I love the analysis because it makes, like you mentioned earlier, the eye-opening moment where iron sharpens iron, right? We all want to be better at fantasy football. We all want to win. So we need to have these other little edges. And this is what we're talking about. And I'm going to give everybody else the real little edge, right? Because we're going to talk about what Travis mentioned earlier, the Konami code of the 2021 draft class. And that is my guy out of North Dakota State, baby, Trey Lance, boy, a.k.a., as Billy and I have dubbed him, Lancelot, boy. A redshirt sophomore standing 6'3", 224, who has a phenomenal build and structure. He will be a NFL starter soon. As I mentioned to you guys behind the scenes of Jeff Lambert's 5,000th article, where we drafted a 32-man draft of the first round all across the board, I thought Fields was going to be gone, and I was going to draft Trey Lance to the Atlanta Falcons 4th overall because Matt Ryan will be gone in 2 years, I believe. Just enough time to train his champion. If y'all read that article, insert Trey Lance instead of Justin Fields, and that is what I wrote. Trey Lance, man, you design the scheme around him. He's essentially the Konami code Game Shark dual threat guy that I want on all of my teams. Obviously, he didn't have that much film, that much game, but what he did was phenomenal when he was there, right? Quarterback pass attempts, 91.41%. Quarterback pass attempts, 281. These are all his career averages, right? His completion rating is almost a 70%. His pass TD rating is close to a 10%. His pass interception, this is where it's really good because we talk about him being, or we want smart quarterbacks. And he's got these intangibles. It's even better. He has almost a 0.0% interception rate. He almost leads the class in his ratio. Only second to, I believe, Trevor Lawrence. And we're talking about a 0.6 differential between the two. The kid is smart. The kid knows how to play football. He's very coachable. You look at career stats versus all the other guys in here, and he's top 4 in pretty much everything. Trey Lance, man, get him on a team that can not only coach him up, but won't make him the starter day one. And this guy is the guy that you want on your dynasty team because by like week 7 to week 8, he might be out there depending on the team. If not, Matt Ryan, coach this guy up, be the better Michael Vick, and you will be leading fantasy teams to championships for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I'm really big on Trey Lance, North Dakota State guy. I mean, they just build football players up there. They're kind of like the Alabama, that D2. They win a lot of games. National titles are the expectation. So this gives you kind of a glance at the way Trey Lance has been coached and pushed and what his expectations have been. So obviously the first concern with Trey Lance coming out, small school woes and limited tape. Not a ton of experience. So really just that 1 year under center. But he's a super athletic, tackle-breaking guy, dangerous in the open field. He really can do it all. He has incredible touch on the deep throws, and it really stands out when you watch him. He might be best suited to sit for a year to really develop, to be able to run like a full passing game. But, people are comparing him to Lamar Jackson. He kind of reminds me more of like a Russell Wilson play style, but a little bit more aggressive running the ball than Russell Wilson. He's a smarter guy and has a lot more touch on his deep throws. He's not just slinging it like Lamar does. Not that Lamar's bad, nothing like that. It's just a different passing style. The touch in the back corner kind of stuff. Lancelot lays it in there, kind of like a Russell Wilson, kind of like those guys that you might see. The one season he was under center, that sophomore year, over 1,100 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns, 6.5 yards a carry. Just shows really his ability to use his legs to also create some offense. So situational. I want him to go somewhere with a good coaching staff, like you said. He needs a year to develop, to really round out his passing game. But he's a day one athlete in the NFL, in my opinion.
Yeah, his athleticism is off the charts. He and Fields are the class of this class as far as athletes go. I think that he needs a bit more polish on like his throwing windows. Like sometimes guys have to reach out and get it. I'd like a little bit. That's nitpicky here. But for me, there's just not enough. I don't have enough on Lance to push him past 4. Matter of fact, I think I was the lowest on him at 5. Yeah, I was. Chris had him at 3, Billy and Tom at 4, and I had him at 5. Again, 5, I'm not low on him. There's one other guy I like better just because I think he's so raw. Like we didn't get enough of him this year. And last year he was kind of a first-year type of guy. What are we really going to see this year? Defenses had some film on him to look at him, and we didn't get to see it. I mean, what we did see was 50% completion percentage in the one game, but I'm not going to use that small sample size to judge him in any way. I just am concerned.
Especially a guy, 318 attempts, 1 interception. That one little bit of sample size, maybe not the best. Coming off the COVID year, 1 game kind of thing. Funny.
Yeah, for me, I want more. He's too raw. I like him better in Dynasty than I do in redraft for this year, just because I don't know that he's going to be able to get on the field this year. He needs Trey Lance equals Carson Wentz. I hope he's as good as Carson Wentz. I would like that. I know the Cowboys fan doesn't like Carson Wentz, but I've been trading for Carson Wentz all offseason in that offense that he's in now. I'm sorry, Philadelphia is dysfunctional. Tom's not here to defend them, but they are dysfunctional. So it's terrible. I'm glad Wentz got out of there. I've been scooping him up everywhere I could go. But Lance does remind me a little bit of brain fart, Baltimore.
Lamar.
Thank you. Wow, that was terrible. He reminds me some of Lamar in that he's just incredibly athletic, and I think just like Fields did a little bit, he might be relying on his athleticism. So for me, and like somebody was saying in the chat, Travis, I think we don't want to see him take that many hits, man. That's a lot of hits that he's going to be taking. It's not like he's small or anything, but you don't want to see your quarterback get banged up.
What's the best landing spot for Trey Lance?
Atlanta.
I disagree.
What do you think's better than Atlanta? The narrative's already there.
Baltimore
had Michael Vick, who was the best quarterback there, dual threat, lefty, right. Obviously the tainted background, but then you go to Matt Ryan, clean cut guy, but doesn't have in his later career the ability to roll around, but he's still super smart. He can teach that to Trey Lance, who is, as we've all said, is a smart guy, but has the ability of Mike Vick. Be the narrative, the clean-cut Mike Vick 2.0 in Atlanta, learning after 2 years and just be unleashed on the league at one point.
I like
in
Minnesota.
My mind. Scott, you stop it. I don't want him in Houston. because I have another guy that I want in Houston, and I want Ty God to play for at least a year.
Yeah, I want to see Trey Lance end up in Minnesota, close to home
Chicago.
in North Dakota State. Another dome team for him. He can learn behind Kirk Cousins and have Dalvin Cook to help him out, along with a nice supporting cast.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good one. I also like Chicago just because he'll have a defense. He won't have too much pressure put on him. He'll have Monty, who's going to be getting his touches, and he has Robinson. Like, Chicago makes sense to me. You let him learn from Dalton. Dalton's a serviceable player. He doesn't have to rush anything. And then maybe Chicago really hits on the quarterback this time. But I do think they're taking –
I kind of like Travis's input of Denver. I mean, if I have Drew Lock and I'm worried about quarterback, I might let Trey Lance play. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. How about Tennessee? I mean, just to bring him in behind Tannehill, he can do a lot of the same type of stuff as Tannehill, except he's way faster. So if I'm Tennessee, maybe I'm looking at this and saying, all right, I know we have Tannehill under contract, but look into the future. There's nobody else in that team that excites me. And if Lance is really as raw as like what I think he is right now, he may need a year or two.
Yeah,
and if that's the case, Tannehill will be coming up on another contract extension, and you can decide whether or not you need to pay him.
That's what I'm saying, Robbie. All these guys over here are hating on me, but I want it back. I want the Konami code, the original. You know, y'all know how I feel about the dual threat quarterback. Whatever. We're going to move forward. We're not going to talk about this anymore right now. We're going to talk about the 1.05 consensus guy from us, McCorkle. Mac Jones, baby. You know, my 1.06, so not that far off, but a redshirt junior who has been at Alabama for a while, as we all know, with the DUIs and the third-string quarterback business. You know, came in when Tua got hurt. Like I mentioned, the Blue Mountain State moment, realized that he could be great, clean the act up. But 6'2", 217, you know, I always see him as like that mid-tier quarterback. He's not going to be the elite guy, but, you know, he could win a divisional championship. You got to be in like a West Coast style offense. A lot of people are saying that he can't throw the deep ball. I think he can throw the deep ball. I've seen him throw the deep ball where his receivers were doing like what they did with Tua, right? The rock, paper, scissors. Who's getting the home run ball? I think he's extremely smart. I wouldn't say top smart. He's smart, football smart. The balance, and he's savvy. He knows how to work a pocket, like we've all seen. When we look at Mac Jones across the board, this is what I really like. He started from as a third-string quarterback, came in not ready, right? Came in when Tua got hurt and flourished. That shows that he's got poise, right? He's not just some scrub. He knows how to play the game. Obviously played at Bama in the SEC, the hardest division in college, and he played tying Kellen, or a couple games less than Kellen Mond, with the second most games played out of all the quarterbacks we're about to talk about. Also, his breakout age was a little bit older than Kellen Mond, but still, and Trevor Lawrence, but he was a redshirted freshman at Alabama. Kind of the thing. He's not going to play until his third year anyway, so that doesn't really bother me too terribly much. And when he hit the field, he won games. Obviously, like you guys mentioned, the Alabama cast is NFL elite already, but good quarterbacks beat bad teams. That's what he did. Obviously, you guys were a little higher on Mac Jones than I was, so y'all take it away.
I think I was the highest on Mac Jones. I have him at 4 above Lance. None of y'all. I'm the only one with him above Lance. Billy, you had him at 5. Pinto at 6, and Tom asked us to mention he has him at 8, and he does not like him one bit. This would have been the hottest of the hot takes right here from Tom. So just a moment of silence to appreciate the heat that's coming from his area right now. Mac Jones, man, this guy is a sniper. He is accurate, short, medium, and at range. He had ridiculous weapons to work with. But every one of his receivers likes him more than Tua. And that's saying something to me. And that's also a reason I'm a little bit off of Tua right now, because Mac Jones has been better in a lot of ways. He has great placement on the ball. He moves well in the pocket. He's got maybe a bit of a limited ceiling just because of lack of athleticism. And again, I think that team can make you look really good, aka Tua. So, but for me, I really, really love his touch. I love his accuracy. Sorry, not limited ceiling. I apologize. I think he has an excellent ceiling. Maybe not. We are in a different level now, though, than the other guys with their ceiling. Sorry, man. I'm not a big Tua fan. And when the receivers that caught balls from Tua are saying Mac Jones is a better quarterback, I'm going to listen to those receivers. So for me, he's a little bit more of a prototypical pocket passer, but he's absolutely good at being athletic enough with a 4.79. Like, he's not a bum. He's not Tom Brady athlete-wise, speed-wise. He's not Ben Roethlisberger speed-wise. He's swift enough. He's a little bit more Aaron Rodgers-y, although not quite that elusive. But for me, his touch, his accuracy. Yeah, Devontae Smith did say it. Devontae Smith said, I think Waddle said the same thing. Mac Jones is better than Tua. And I am going to listen to two amazing receivers. That guy's accuracy is fantastic. That's fair. They're not scouts, but they are pretty daggum good. One of them won the Heisman. So for me, I'm going to trust those guys who are catching the ball.
Manziel won the Heisman.
Yeah, but he was a bum.
Yeah, so Mac Jones coming in for Tua, big shoes to fill, kind of similar to the way Tua came in filling Jalen Hurts' shoes. But this is a guy that threw the ball 402 times in the SEC and completed 77.4% of his passes. That is just asinine completion percentage. Incredible. 41 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, 55 touchdowns to 7 picks in the last 2 seasons, 7 picks and 556 career attempts in the SEC. Now, you can give me all the talent in the world, but that's not very many bad decisions. I mean, LSU, there's some serious defenses down there in the SEC that he's playing against that are almost as talented as these Alabama offenses. So, Mac Jones, really, really ringing the bell of like a Joe Burrow to me. I feel the same way. A guy that maybe you question because of all the talent around him, but I just see something in the guy. There's a toughness, there's a leadership ability. It's kind of a mindset of a guy that's willing to sit back and was ready to go in when he did and take over the way he did. Really, he turned that Alabama offense into a scoring machine that it really hasn't been. Tua took it up a notch. Mac Jones took it up another notch, in my opinion. I think he'll be a great fit in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan.
Me too.
Ooh, calling it right now.
Yeah, I also want to comment. We were talking about this earlier, but for our listeners, his DUIs, the last one he had was at 19. So this is a couple years ago, guys. This is a child becoming a man. So like I'm much less concerned about if that DUI was last year rather than when he was a third string quarterback back in the day. You know, he's a teenager. He's no longer a teenager.
I said it today, man. The Blue Mountain State thing, it just happens. Like, I ain't worried about, like you said, Ryan, I'm not worried about it, but whatever. We're going to go on to the guy that was consensus, that we were talking about a while ago that could have been in the top 5. A guy that I think most of us were just like, on, right? Out of Stanford, the senior, 6'4", 225, Davis Mills. In my mind, when I first started diving in on him, I was like, man, he's a backup quarterback no matter what. Like, blah, blah, blah. Then we start looking into him a little bit more. He's got quick tendencies, right? He's a little twitchy. Like, he throws the ball quickly. He's got the quick release. And he likes to throw the ball down the field a little bit. So the RPO will probably be his friend. He has subtle movements in my mind, being a smarter guy, obviously going to Stanford, where he's got those little finite points that he, because he doesn't have the other abilities that some of these other guys got, so he has to be a little bit more finite on some of the things. And he's really good at that. So that's just knowing who you are, knowing the kind of quarterback you are. I think he's very accurate when you're talking about 14 to 15 yards and in. So I kind of like that. When you look at Davis Mills altogether, though, right? 31.2 attempts per game, 286 completions in his career total, 34-64 on the yards. Nothing really stands out too terribly much, except he's extremely smart. He's got the build that you want. What do you guys think? Where would he fall to you? And then I guess that's my one question. Where would he fall to you where you're like, oh, I got to have this guy? Because there's a little bit of hype around him, and he could be like the Pat White that I mentioned earlier when we were talking, right? In 2009, the Pat White quarterback. What do you think?
He kind of reminds me of Kirk Cousins. I think this is a guy you get him like in that 4th round, that you could like kind of let him develop for a year. He might come in and play some good football. Like you said, he's really smart. You don't have to really worry about him learning your playbook or anything like that. Just being a Stanford guy, you know that that's part of the deal. Robbie, what's up?
Robbie, funny man.
But so Davis Mills, when I watch him, the thing that sticks out to me, he's a pro quarterback mechanically. He has prototype size. He has a little bit of like evasive Tom Brady kind of make you miss in the pocket. He can slide and kind of help a running back set up a block, but he's not getting out of the pocket. He's not just making you miss. He just kind of feels the pocket really well. Keeps his eyes downfield when he's moving, which are all good positive things. But he does have some head-scratching misses, like stuff that big-time Division I quarterbacks, NFL prospect guys should not be missing. And it just leaves you kind of wondering, maybe that's an experience type of thing. He doesn't have a whole lot of games under his belt, but a guy that will end up on an NFL team, and somebody somewhere thinks this guy has a lot of potential.
Yeah, I've grown more and more fond of him as I have progressed through the offseason. When I look at him, I see a lot of the things that I liked about Andrew Luck. I want to reiterate, I think this guy ran a 4.58. Like, he is not slow. And that is another thing that reminds me of Andrew Luck, like the incredible athleticism that wasn't even necessary. For me, yeah, he needs a lot more time. A lot of the same things I say about Lance, I'm going to say about Mills. Just haven't seen enough. I don't know what we're looking at here. But I have seen him make every throw from every position. I am concerned about injury a little bit. But this guy's a great athlete, deceptively fast. I do think that RPO is going to be something that they use with him, maybe a little bit in the veins of Carson Wentz. I also want to comment that Tom has him ranked the highest as his 5th quarterback. And then I had him at 6, and you two guys had him at 7. So we were pretty close there with Mills. We all agree he's a top 7 quarterback. For me, I just think that the lack of volume has killed his value overall as far as could he get pushed up a little higher. Maybe if he plays 2 full seasons, he can do that.
So the only thing I want to add to that is, yeah, he had limited play time. The least amount of games among the 14 quarterbacks with only 14 games played. But excluding the weird back guy that we'll talk about at some point tonight, he had the most passes per game. Like I mentioned, 31.2 attempts per game. So in the limited amount of games he was in, he's throwing the rock and he's trying to feature himself, I'm assuming, right? But regardless, 14 games is not a lot. So we'll just have to see where this pans out. And I love it, right? Let's kind of go on forward. Woo! This is a guy, man, that I liked a lot. Obviously, the weapons were there. Kyle Trask out of the University of Florida. Go Gators, man. Kyle Trask, he was my 1.08. Redshirt senior, 6'5", huge 239. Got the Dante Culpepper build. In my mind, he's developmental because he has the ability to do what you want him to do. He's a West Coast guy, big body guy, but he can also run the RPO because of that big body frame. Like I mentioned, Dante Culpepper. You get him in a short yardage situation, you're getting the 3 yards. He's got to fall forward. That's all he's got to do. So you can build a really good offense around him, right? I mean, he's got to have the weapons first and foremost, and he's got to have a good line as well because of the big build where he doesn't have the mobility as some of these other quarterbacks we're talking about. But get him in the right situation, he's moving the ball for you. Kyle Traskman obviously had Kyle to Kyle all year long for him. His breakout age was super, super good because he's what? Like 21. So broke out oldest of the pack. So you kind of don't want to see that, but you like it obviously because he grew into who he was going to be. Where do you guys think that he fits the best? And I mean, is Kyle Trask even on your radar for Dynasty compared to some of these other guys?
You know, Kyle Trask, I really like this guy. I'm kind of fading back as I watch him more and more. He's just really not very disciplined with his footwork. Big guy, stats are there. His completion percentage is pretty good as well, and it's gotten better each year under center. 43 touchdowns to 8 interceptions last year. That's pretty good numbers for a guy, but I really do feel like he's really, really a developmental guy, and situations going to be huge. I've heard him linked to the Saints. I would love that for him because, going to New Orleans with Sean Payton, that's getting a PhD in quarterback play. But Florida, the offense, there's a certain amount of stats you can kind of expect from a Florida quarterback. Trask has a big arm. He's willing to sling it. However, I see a lot of times where he wants to push the ball into a spot instead of running through his progressions. There might be a guy wide open, but he feels like he can put the ball in there, kind of a gunslinger mentality, puts it where he wants to sometimes. And some of the windows that his arm bailed him out of in college won't work so well in the pros.
Yeah, man, when you're throwing the ball to Kyle Pitts, you're going to look good. It's just that's what it is. They tried to time him on the 40, and that was 2 weeks ago. He hasn't finished yet. So whenever he gets done, we'll let you know how slow he really is. Under 40 in my notes, I just put slow. But again, yeah, oh, God, he really isn't athletic. Pitts made him look amazing. He made a lot of incredible catches. Kadarius Toney is no bum. That being said, he does have good placement on the ball sometimes, and he can move well in the pocket, a la, like you were saying, Brady, maybe a little bit Ben Roethlisberger. I think this is the limited ceiling for me. I just think with the way the league is going, this guy can't. There isn't as much room for these pocket passers that can't move to the pocket unless they are legendarily accurate, and I don't see that per se. He had such good talent around him that it made him look better than he was. I don't see this guy ever being more than a backup in this league, if that. He doesn't do it for me. When you have Pitts, you should have been more prolific. I know he had some pretty big numbers, but you should have been – the rest of the defense should have been going crazy. You should have been able to pick him apart in other places. He had Toney too. Like, he's a beast receiver. I didn't see it. And then the big games, he wasn't coming through. Some of that stuff sticks with me, and I can't get rid of it. For me, I'm going to be probably moving Trask down my board as I go. And I want to also comment, the highest person was – Tom had 6 as well as Billy. Chris, you had him at 8, and I had him at 7. So, again, there's none of these quarterbacks we're that far off of yet, within 2 of each other and almost every – except for the Mac Jones with Tom thing. That's a little crazy. But other than that, we've been really on very similarly ranking these guys.
The only guy I care about, the only guy that I want to boost up right now, boy, I don't care about how far away I am with Kyle Trask out of Florida. I'm talking about my boy rocking the maroon and white out of Texas A&M University, Kellen Mond. Boy, I've been talking to you guys about him, and I'm like, man, this is the lowest A&M quarterback I've ever been on. Because let's go back real quick. Let's get a little history lesson real quick. We go back and start with Stephen McGee in 2009. In that draft class, there's Matt Stafford, Mark Sanchez, Pat White, Steve McGee. Steve McGee was my 1.02, okay? So 1.02 started off. Then we got Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill, my 1.01, baby. Let's go. Don't matter. Let's go. He's winning it for you. Wide receiver turned quarterback. Then we go, a little bit of a half and half. Kyler Murray, right? Kyler Murray played a year at A&M, went to OU. All good, baby. Better quarterback coach there. Won the Heisman. Let's go. 1.01 Kyler Murray. And then a little stain on everything for A&M. But Kyle Field, the house that Johnny built. Johnny Football won the Heisman on 1.01. I wanted him for the Houston Texans. They didn't do it. Cleveland Browns took him. All good. Flash forward to Kellen Mond. He's my 1.05 quarterback. That is the lowest A&M quarterback I've ever had. And I've realized came full circle today that I was going to have to defend him. Insert clown face. Don't matter, because Kellen Mond, the 6'3", 205 quarterback out of IMG Academy, a son of Texas, out of San Antonio military brat boy. He is not only a developmental quarterback right now, he could start week 8 in the NFL. Give him the offense that hold up, Ryan. Hold up. Statistically, first and foremost, we all know the SEC is the hardest division to play in. Statistically, because stats win ships, he is the most prolific quarterback not only in College Station to play, but also in the SEC. His stats are off the charts. He's played 46 starting games in the SEC, more than any of these other quarterbacks that we're going to talk about tonight, more than any quarterback that you could talk about last year. He broke out at the age of 18, coming out of IMG Academy with his boy Jamon Osmond to A&M, man. He played against the hardest dudes in the NFL today, coming out of the SEC. He gets hit, he gets up. Yes, he looks confused, but does he play better in situations? Yes, he does. Can he be coached? Yes. He went toe-to-toe with the national champion LSU Tigers, took them to 7 overtimes, will be in college football history forever. I was at the game. We were at Kyle Field until 1 o'clock in the morning watching Kellen Mond go toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow, 7 overtimes, and win it. The dude is football smart. The dude knows how to play the game. If you get coaches and a quarterback that's older than him to teach him how to play the game, he will be the man. Kellen Mond, I want you on all my dynasty teams because I'm going to get a great value out of you, man, and we're going to rock championships because I'm winning the next 2 years with the team I got now and then the next 3 years with the team that you're on. Let's go. Ryan, I know you got something to say, so I'm going to let you say it. But first,
Billy, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'll let you finish up being an alum. Kellen Mond, this guy's just something about him doesn't get me too excited. Not to shit on your guy, man. I don't think he sucks. It's a goofy watch. I mean, he plays the quarterback position kind of stiff, kind of has a weird like elbow lead and release. Travis, that's great. When I watch him, big arm. He drives the ball with authority, but he has an awkward drop back. He doesn't really get deep in the pocket, so pressure gets in his face sometimes when it really shouldn't. And he has to see the play. He doesn't really throw with any anticipation a lot of times. He's, it's open, then he sees it, then he throws. So kind of that mixed with the way he drops back, I see a lot of times where he may make the right read, but he's half a step late on delivering the ball, and it kind of negates with the potential of some of the plays. I think he might be the most situational dependent guy of this group. However, I do think he also makes his best plays when he's under pressure.
All right, so Billy had him at 8, and Chris has him at 5, and Tom and I have him at 10. And I think 10 is probably too high. Here's the thing. I've watched a lot of Kellen Mond too because at Pinto, we both went to A&M. He lacks precision. He's not precise on his throws. He's an excellent athlete. I'm not sold on him. He's inconsistent. How much better can he even get? He's improved every year because he was terrible. You say he broke out at 18. He had 51% completion percentage. I don't like that at all. Even in the highlights, his highlight tapes, receivers are adjusting to his throws often. He cannot hit the window. He will have to improve a bunch because he cannot make small window throws very often. It doesn't happen. He looks unnatural. Like you were saying, Billy, we were talking about this some today. He's tight, he's stiff or tight, whatever it is that makes him, he doesn't look like he's comfortable out there. He's dangerous on the ground with his legs. And he's dangerous on the move with his legs, but his arm is not that dangerous because of the accuracy issues. You're saying about
touch. No touch. I mean, everything is a can. He doesn't really finesse much of anything.
He really doesn't. And I mean, he capped off his college career with a 63.3% completion percentage, which was a career best. That's not good. That is lower than some of the guys' lowest completion percentages that we've gone through here. And those guys played in the SEC also. I just look at what I'm seeing. Yes, he did have some improvements in some areas, but my God, you have 2 years of under 60% completion percentage with what is arguably a pretty high-powered offense. I know you have some problems defensively. And again, I watched him. He doesn't seem to know what he's doing all the time out there. It seems like sometimes he gets lost in the system or he gets lost in his reads or progressions. I'm not saying he's dumb at all. That's not what I mean. What I'm saying is something looks slightly wrong. But looking at fantasy, I may wind up getting a little bit of exposure because of his athleticism. That being said, I am really off of Mond, and this is the first – well, no, it's not. I didn't like Manziel either. But I usually like A&M quarterbacks. Mond reminds me a lot more of Manziel than he does of Tannehill. I don't think I can get on this train, man. it's not like he's otherworldly fast like Fields or Lance either. Like he's a 4.57 if I'm not mistaken, which is about Davis Mills speed. I mean, I'm looking at that and going, it's not special. He's not that big. He's not. Nothing does it for me.
Kaepernick-esque to you?
Yes, Kaepernick-esque. That is. Thank you, Billy.
Yes.
You said that earlier. I agree.
Kaepernick went to a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, he did.
He win?
They pulled the lights to make sure he didn't win it.
And then he lost to Joe Flacco.
Hey, Joe Flacco ain't no scrub though, boy. Come on now. Let's be honest. The Ravens team. If we're talking about that, the Ravens team.
So is the Niners team, though. They were awesome at that point, too.
So they went toe-to-toe.
They were going to win that game if they didn't pull the plug on the whole stadium and shut that thing down and wait for the lights to come back on. That negated their little push at the end of that game, and I truly believe that.
It's possible for sure.
The only thing I will say before we move on, because I got to have the last word on Kellen Mond, is because we talk about the stats, right? And we talk about how his percentages are a little bit lower than some of the other guys. The numbers are a little bit – or what?
A lot of it.
A lot of bit. Okay, a lot of bit. Let's talk about a lot of bit real quick. We're talking about Trevor Lawrence. In his entire career, he's thrown 1,100 passes. Kellen Mond, 1,400. You want to talk about the next guy that's next to him? We're talking about this guy we don't even know, Patrick Ramsey, 1,200. Kellen Mond still close to 14, right? We're talking about where's Justin Fields at? 618. Where's Felipe Franks 860? When you get these doubled numbers, yeah, they're gonna be a little bit more lower, but old boy's got the volume. Plus his rushing ability is out of this world when you correlate that all together. Kellen Mond, my 1.05. Let's go, baby, for the maroon and white.
I have to. I can't help it. Even though he threw for 200, wait, how many more total exactly? Over 200 more passes. He had less yards than Trevor Lawrence. He had less touchdowns than Trevor Lawrence, and he had more interceptions than Trevor Lawrence. He had a worse rating. Trevor Lawrence, his worst year completion percentage was better than Kellen Mond's best year's completion.
Yeah. Kellen Mond also played in the SEC
better than his best year.
Rookie, as a freshman, Ryan. So he played against
he was really bad.
Nationally ranked defense. I'm just saying. We'll talk about this on SportsMe. We'll get this on SportsMe right after the show. Kellen Mond, the disrespect stops tonight.
It just begins.
Cannot just begin. I'm shitting on him the entire
That's true.
time.
It's been all day.
We're going to move on to the Fighting Irish Rudy Rudiger's Ian Book. Okay, guys, Ian Book. Ian Book for me, man, he was the 1.09. Senior out of Notre Dame, 6 feet 210. Got to develop this kid in my mind. He's got some intangibles. He can win. I believe where's his note right here? He is the school's most winningest quarterback and second in all time of passing in both yardage and touchdowns. So the kid is a gamer, which you like. He's got that Baker Mayfield kind of swag, but in the Fighting Irish type of way, for me at least. When I'm looking at this kid over the course of his 4 seasons at Notre Dame, his 4 seasons there, but he didn't play his rookie year or his freshman year. So 3 years, 10, 13, and 12 games total. And 1,100 yards, 25.4 attempts per game, 728 yards. These are stats that I like because they're just consistent through the 3 years at Notre Dame. Obviously, like Billy always mentions, we wish the combine was there so we can get these combine numbers. His breakout age was at age 20, which you would expect from a Notre Dame quarterback. But when you look at his career averages, this is what I really like. His raw QBR rating is a 79 or 71.9. And then total QBR is a 78.2, which isn't super, super great. But for what I've diagnosed him as a smart guy that you build an offense around, I kind of like it, right? Because he's just consistent. How high were you guys on this? Because I wasn't really paying too much attention to Ian Book once I saw where Kellen Mond was with you guys.
I like Ian Book. He wound up running a 4.59, which caught me off guard. They were projecting him as like a 4.7, 4.8 guy, but he really is a pretty good athlete. he sometimes relies on it a little too much, but sometimes he also tries to do a little too much. I see, again, we talked about Minshew. Sometimes he's trying to extend the play. I see a little bit of that with Book as well. But oftentimes his athleticism will save him. Like in the same way, like you don't want a guy relying too much on it, but when you're an athletic enough guy, like a Kyler type of a player, he's not Kyler. Again, I'm just using Kyler as an example. You want him relying on the athleticism because it keeps defenses honest. He makes great throws on the run. That was the place I was most impressive. When he's rolling out one way or the other, he was incredibly accurate, especially when he had a guy like Claypool who was so big. Man, he kept it where Claypool only could catch it. I know last year didn't have that, but 2 years ago when he had Claypool, man, he had some incredible stuff. I love when he goes ad lib. He also has a pretty good deep ball with accuracy. He just needs to work on his consistency. There's a lot of upside here. He shows some good touch sometimes. I like what I'm seeing. With Book, again, that is some pretty impressive stuff at Notre Dame, who's had a pretty long list, not recently, but a pretty long list of some pretty awesome quarterbacks through the years. And he's at the tops of a lot of those lists. Sometimes he convinced me he was excellent, and sometimes I was just convinced that Notre Dame needed another quarterback. But for me, and for a lot of the same reasons you were saying with Mond, I see a slightly more polished version of Mond that probably had slightly inferior competition. So you might be looking at a similar guy right here. I just Book one more. And I know, again, he didn't play in the SEC, and I do take that into consideration. But he also was more accurate throughout his career for the most part. He never really had that, other than that freshman year when he barely played. He was flirting with 3,000 yards every year. He had some pretty good touchdown-interception ratios. He's a pretty good player, and I think he can be an excellent backup to start off with his athleticism. That's a guy that might make sense in Baltimore.
Yeah, one of the only guys that actually is above the 64% mark in pass completions, even with those deeper balls. So I commend you for that one. I mean, I'll have to agree with that with you on that. But he is no Kellen Mond.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said there, Ryan. When I watch Ian Book, to me, he plays bigger than he is. Like when I looked him up and I saw he's only 6 foot 206, I'm like, man, this guy seems like a 6'3", 230-pound guy. He runs around. He breaks tackles. He's pretty exciting. 30-5 as a starter at Notre Dame. Now, they don't play in the SEC. Don't get me wrong, but they did, beat Clemson last year. So that's a pretty good, Trevor Lawrence-less Clemson. Don't get me wrong, but still a pretty impressive win. He's a good athlete and he's dangerous outside the pocket. Both with his rushing ability, has about 1,000 yards over the last 2 years rushing, but also just scrambling out of the pocket, looking downfield, and making plays. You saw him do a ton of that with Chase Claypool. And Chase Claypool being on the team, you can really see in the stat chart for Ian Book, 34 touchdowns passing to 15 last year, but still only 9 interceptions over the last 2 years. That's pretty impressive for a guy that had the ball in his hands as much as Ian Book. He really did run this offense. He has an okay arm. It's strong enough, but his pocket awareness stands out. Like he really feels pressure well. And doesn't look to get out of the pocket necessarily, but when it's time, he does, and he usually makes pretty good plays. But he does hold the ball, takes a lot of sacks, but he doesn't throw interceptions. So I guess there's some give and take on that. If I'm a quarterback coach, I teach the kid to throw it away, and we're doing all right with what we have to work with Ian Book.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll say. I mean, he definitely plays bigger than he is, and you like that, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Almost Russell Wilson-esque, right? Like, I was surprised, too. I was like, golly,
6
he's only
foot.
6
I'm like,
foot.
this guy's like 6'5". Come on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll go with that. I'm okay. All right, Ian Book.
Yeah.
The one thing I also want to mention, I've been trying to remember, Tom has him as his QB 7, which is higher than any of us. Me and Chris have him at 9, and Billy had him at 11. Tom had him at 7. Like, 7.
Tom hates Kellen Mond because of Jalen Hurts. Let's not forget that fact. So.
Yeah, but I mean, he had Mond at 10 and Book at 7. He has the most. A lot of guys.
He was supposed to switch them if he was, but whatever.
All right.
Guys, let's go on to this guy that's been a journeyman already in college, right? Old boy Felipe Franks, man, out of Arkansas, redshirt senior. This guy is a big guy. 6'6", 238. Bigger than Kyle Trask. Developmental in my mind. He's very, like I mentioned, 6'6". And I think he's one of those guys that maybe like Robbie was mentioning earlier, like he's not that high on or he was high on Trask, but like this guy for me, he's got like an 80. Like you're building this guy in Madden, and I know that's really bad, right? Just 80s across the board. He is just like there. You know what I'm saying? He's not super excellent in anything, but he's a big body with these good attributes across the board. I think he's a project quarterback, like I mentioned to you, is developmental. And this is why. I mean, he played at the age of 18, right? And that's when, quote unquote, that's what his breakout year was. But he's moved from multiple different schools, right? And moved finally to Arkansas, where he finally played his senior year's redshirt senior year, right? His interceptions went down, I think. Yeah, they went down. But this is where it gets me. He's played 37 games total, and his pass attempts were 860. That doesn't strike me as like someone that I'm wanting super, super high up. Now, obviously, his body makes me want him on my team because of what he can do. Like I mentioned, the Dante Culpepper comp earlier with Trask. So where do you guys sit on Mr. Franks, the Arkansas Razorback?
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, was I the highest on Franks? Yeah, I had him at 8. Tom had him at 9, and you guys had him at 11 and 12. I'm seeing Big Ben. This guy ran a 4.55 at his pro day. 4.55. Now, remember pro days, but that's fast. That's still like
common. That's still like a 4.8. So
yeah, probably. But what I'm saying is, this is not Big Ben per se. This is and you can see on the field. Now, what he isn't is quick. He's not quick. But when he gets going, holy bejesus, he's like a gazelle. So he's fast. He's faster than he is quick. He is huge. I mean, he sees over the tops of even the linemen. He lacks a little bit of zip on some of his throws that we were talking about with another guy we'll be talking about later. He doesn't have quite the zip that I see with a lot of the other guys that I saw above us, but he's making these throws that only his guys can get. He throws it so high, and he has such a high release point that, a guy like Claypool or any of those big body guys, man, that's going to be a weapon because he really does put the ball, especially high points for his big guys. He was inconsistent. Obviously, his stats kind of show that, but his upside is wicked in reality. He has a really unorthodox long delivery that it looks like he's not getting the quick release that I would hope for. You know what he's like? He's like an athletic Brock Osweiler. Remember how Osweiler had that big arm, long, big release? This guy's just a more athletic version of that. Dangerous in the red zone.
I've got the Watson stuff going on. You gonna bring up Brock Osweiler right now? You want me to cry on this live stream right now? Come on, Ryan.
Osweiler's terrible. I hope Franks has a better career than that. But he can see the whole field the whole time. And again, he has a big arm. Maybe not the best in the class, but he has a big arm. You think about him at 6'6", and he has that long. So I am concerned with his release. And I am concerned. I wish he was a little bit bigger, especially if you want to use him in the run game, because he is fast. When he gets going, when he gets his momentum, he's good. I like Franks. I think I'm higher on him, and I think he will climb a little bit more on my board before it's all said and done.
So to add to your point, I'm looking at these numbers real quick, Ryan, before Billy goes. Franks, man, in his best year for yards per carry is actually only second to none to Kellen Mond. That's really good. Then you look at his TD to team rush attempt ratio, and he is third. He's third out of all these quarterbacks. Kellen Mond being number 2, Felipe Franks being number 3, both having over a 0.3 percentage. That's absolutely crazy when you look at T-Law, and T-Law's got a 0.2.
Yeah,
when you get he's like the juggernaut.
Yeah, it's strange.
Very, very strange. I like it. Can we call Felipe Franks, a.k.a. the Juggernaut, now?
I'm big.
Especially if stop him.
He starts getting beefy. I like it.
Billy, let's add some of this. We got some viewers right now.
Yeah, so Felipe Franks, the more and more I watch this guy, the more and more I'm going, whoa, how do I not know more about this guy? Being at Arkansas, you kind of overlook them as one of those lower-tier SEC schools. But like you guys said, he's huge. And watching him, the first thing that stands out, he's big, has a sturdy base in the pocket. The guy looks like an athlete, a real deal athlete. I mean, it shows right away. He looks the part of an NFL quarterback. He had completion percentage woes early in his career, freshman, sophomore, but vastly improved as he played through only a few interceptions. It's funny, you guys brought up Ben Roethlisberger, Travis in the comments, and you mentioned Chase Claypool, because right here in my notes, I wrote, he gives me a Steelers quarterback feel. He just kind of feels like that type of dude, that
man.
gritty, he can sling it, he'll take a big hit, he wants his mouth to be bloody type of guy. That's just the feel I get from him. I'm excited for him if he gets an NFL opportunity, because I think he's had some real progression and real development already in college. I think the right quarterback coach, the right situation, where he's got a decent supporting cast, he could be a really good player.
Yeah, I agree, Billy. I am intrigued, and I hope Pittsburgh's listening, because Ben's done after this year, right? It's over, and there's nobody on that roster that is going to be the replacement. You got to find him this year, and if you don't want to spend high early capital, Felipe Franks should be available in second, third, fourth. It's going to be hard to tell how many guys are going in round one. I'm hearing Davis Mills in round one. I was telling y'all that too. Like, there's could be 6 to 7 quarterbacks, maybe even 8 going in round one of this draft. That's crazy. So you might not be able to get Franks late.
I'm liking him more and more. Like I said, I'm liking him more than Davis Mills if I'm drafting the team and I have the right guys in place. There's just something about his play. There's not a whole lot I feel like I got to fool with to get this guy ready to play. I think he might just be overlooked because of that Arkansas thing, just kind of tucked down in there in the bottom of the SEC with some other talented guys, and it's just a guy that got overlooked a little bit.
I'm going to have to dive deeper into this because I love it. You know how much I love the SEC guys, but moving forward to keep this all going, what do you got? Okay, that's fine. We'll kick this off with Peyton Ramsey. I believe this is our quarterback 11 out of Northwestern. Peyton Ramsey is a guy that I was looking at, and I was just like, Ryan and you were like, hey, you need to look at this guy because he's not even in your top 12. I'm looking at him like, he's still not in my top 12, but that's fine. I feel like he's a developmental guy, right? It's not a guy that I'm really shooting for. 6'2", 220 out of Northwestern. Yeah, Billy, to your credit, he was a Big Ten guy right out of Indiana, which you told me about today, and I looked it up, and I was like, ooh, okay. He likes the I don't know if he likes it, but he flourishes with RPOs, right? Which is what the NFL is going to, like we mentioned earlier. We keep mentioning RPOs, and I like that. Kind of more for me, like how Felipe Franks is like an 80 across the board, his arm talent, things like that. I just think they're okay, right? He doesn't have the extreme intangibles for me, at least, where I'm trying to shoot after this guy. There's other guys that I would rather have on my squad, but I get it where this class, at least for me, right, we're talking, it's got like 15, 16, maybe 18 guys that you could probably shoot, but after the top 4, it's all like a huge drop. So this guy, for me, Peyton Ramsey, he's serviceable. And when I'm looking at this right now, the one thing that he does have to his credit is he's played all 4 seasons in the NCAA, right? He's 23 right now, 8 games in 19, or I'm sorry, 8 games as a freshman, 12, 11, and then 9. His pass attempts have been pretty consistent when you average out the amount of games he played, sitting somewhere around like the 275 mark. What I'm really looking at right now is this dual threat ability, because that's the X factor when I'm looking down at these guys, like down here on the list. So let me go down to Peyton Ramsey. I'm looking at Peyton Ramsey. Okay, not too terrible. He holds and, ties Felipe Franks at a 3.2 best. What's really good is his rush attempts per attempt is close to 1 yard at 0.83 at his best, which the best overall is Kellen Mond at 1.118, and then number 2 is Trevor Lawrence, and then we got Peyton Ramsey at 1.83. So we'll keep on moving because Kellen Mond just keeps on winning the statistical battles that no one ever thinks about. But
except completion percentage.
Say what?
Except for completion percentage, he gets
when you
last
play
place
in the SEC and you're not the guy that your head coach brings in, and you have to learn this new look. We're not going to talk about this right now, Ryan. It's the whole thing. Everyone knows how me and you are with Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. This is the same thing right now. We talk about for hours, and we'll both have great points, and people will be sitting back eating popcorn, but we got that kind of time right now.
Yeah, we got more
We're
rookies.
talking about Peyton Ramsey. And Ryan, since you were the guy that was like, Pinto, look at Peyton Ramsey. Tell me about this guy. What do you have on him?
Well, Billy's actually higher than me and you. You didn't have him in the top 12, but I had him at 12. Tom had him at 11, and Billy had him at 9. And Billy was making some good points to me earlier. When I was watching Ramsey, I was kind of blown away by his touch. His touch was fantastic. He can put the ball anywhere he wants to. He's accurate every range. But the thing that freaks me out, he didn't have that zip, that pop, that when he throws a bullet, it's not a bullet. There's a lot of air time from what I could see on his throws. But he makes great throws. But it's like those pro-level DBs, we were talking about this earlier. The pro-level DBs, I think, are going to have more time to react to those. They're not ducks per se, but they're not boom zips. So I think it caps his upside. That being said, I think he could come in right now and be a backup in this league day one. He's a good athlete, better than good enough athlete. He's not like some special athlete, but he's a good enough athlete. He can keep defenses honest on the ground. He's incredibly accurate with incredible touch. I just wish he had a bit more pop on his throws. That would move him way up this board for me.
The crazy thing about Peyton Ramsey for me is like there's not a single thing across the board that's going to impress you that much. And really, statistically, you got to do a pretty deep dive to really get him up there where he's up there with the upper echelon of these guys at the quarterback position. He's not super fast. He's not super big. The stats aren't really all that great. He's just solid across the board. He's a coach's son, named after Peyton Manning. His brother's named after Drew Brees. I mean, he's these guys are all about football. And, even mom is a big football person in this family. So I just feel like he's that guy that you want to have in your locker room. I see him having like a Chase Daniels career. Like when he comes in, the guy can play ball. But he's a guy you want in your quarterback room. He's smart. He's going to help, talk about stuff, concepts, and be creative in the locker room kind of thing. Not a starter. But if you need him for 3 weeks to get by while your guy gets back from a rib injury, you're in really good shape. And you can probably run almost your whole offense with him under center.
I thought that was perfectly said, Billy. I agree. I was going to say Colt McCoy, but I like Chase Daniel even better.
Yeah.
As far as a comp.
Yeah, I don't want to comp anyone to a TU guy. all stupid at the end of that. Jaws in our chat, man. Mon reminds me of Zach Mettenberger.
Yes. Thank you.
LSU quarterback out of the SEC.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Not good.
I'm just saying, because I know some things. So
the Titans are still mad about that.
The Titans are still mad about that. Well, guys, we're about to knock this out. So we got 3 more quarterbacks, right? These are our bottom 3 quarterbacks consensus from the fantasy first rounders. So where do they sit with you as a whole who is watching us? Because these are our bottom 3 guys. And there's one guy that I would have in the top 20, maybe 20, but because of where everyone else was, where the world is on him, I had to make him in my top 14. This is not the next guy we're talking about. This is Jamie Newman out of Georgia, baby. Go Dogs, man. Actually, I'm sorry. Wake Forest, the Demon Deacons. Wow, Chris. Can I get that right? Hold on. I can do this right here. This is live, guys, so I can do this really quick. And
well, he was a transfer to Georgia in 2020, but he didn't play.
Yes, that is true. But
you weren't wrong per se.
Wasn't wrong, but the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, give him credit where credit's due at the ACC. He's played 2 seasons, 18 games essentially. 23 years old right now. Jamie Newman, man. I want him in a wide style offense spread, if you would. They took full advantage of his dual threat ability, like the Konami code. So Jamie Newman kind of does that for him, right? He is, in my mind, a great athlete. He runs hard. And there's a lot of room for him to develop if you have someone that can teach him, right? So when I'm looking at his yards per carry, Jamie Newman, His best year was a 3.9. That's exceptional when you're looking at the other 14 quarterbacks that we're talking about, where most of them in the lower 3s, mid 2s. And his touchdown percentage, or his touchdown to rush rate, is close to a 2%, which, excluding we're back Seth Ellinger, who has a .666 devil rating, is really, really high. So Jamie Newman, man, I like the flyer on him. Kind of like I was not successful last year with Steven Montez, Anthony Gordon. This is a guy that's kind of right. I mean, super good potential, but just didn't pan out. You drop him from your taxi squad. Sorry, Jamie Newman, you're in that same level for me, at least. Maybe my guys have something different. What do you guys think?
I actually like Jamie Newman quite a bit. Watching him, he's surprisingly talented. I just thought a guy at Wake Forest, kind of overlooked him myself. He's another one of these big, sturdy guys. He has a quick, twitchy release. I mean, when he figures out where he wants to go with the ball, it's out quick. He's got some juice. He'll throw a lot of kind of, deep back shoulder stuff when plays break down, just communication things. So you can tell that he's doing the work in the film room and with his wide receivers. Perhaps the most overlooked of this group, in my opinion. Completion percentage is an issue, but that brings me back to your point, Chris, that he has a lot of developing that could be done with this guy. A very good athlete, over 500 yards rushing, and that year he started at Wake Forest, 6 touchdowns on the ground, and I guess he gets my vote out of this class as the most likely to not give your job back if he gets on the field.
Ooh.
Oh, I like that.
I like that a lot. Okay.
So this guy did not make Tom or I's rankings of top 12. I mean, we have a lot more guys, but because we didn't want to do 150 quarterbacks tonight, we just had our top 12s. And if you made anybody's top 12s, that's how we wound up with 14. So Tom and I did not have this guy in our top 12, and Chris and Billy had him in 10. So I'm moving farther and farther off of him the more I watch, because Sage Surratt is a monster. When I was looking at Jamie Newman highlights and Jamie Newman like game film trying to get a feel, all I kept going back to was, my God, I need to move Sage Surratt up my board. How many of the big plays in Newman's highlights were just a throw to Surratt and he either makes an exceptional catch or there's a whole bunch of yak with Surratt? He's a tough kid, man. He's a solid athlete. He has power, which is a weird thing you would generally say about a quarterback, but he runs with power. Surratt did make him look good. I question his deep accuracy a little bit because, again, outside of some big bombs to Surratt, where Surratt made exceptional catches, I didn't see a ton that showed me that he was very accurate deep. This guy does have high potential, but he is inconsistent. You can look at his stats to see that. He capitalizes a lot on guys that got wide open. He needs polish. He's a little bit raw, but his arm strength, I'm not sure about yet. It does look like he can make the big throws, but I didn't see enough where I was like, okay, this guy's got a killer arm. I wrote again in my notes, man, Surratt is good. Unsure about Newman. So until I see something, basically, Surratt is just skyrocketing up my board right now, and that's causing me to push Newman down a little bit more. Now, he wasn't far outside my top 12. He's probably like 13 or 14. I haven't gotten where I have him exactly. I just got my 12 today. But Newman's not far. It's not like this guy's way out of the range, and he's in most people's top 12. But for me, after watching Surratt and watching the highlight reels, which was basically a Surratt show, I was like, I'm going to back off of him a little bit, and I don't think he's going to be moving up my board.
I mentioned earlier, you guys, just between us, right? Sage Surratt, man, he's at least a look because of the name, right? He's like a Marvel super character, got the 2 S's going on. To your point, Newman, he is to the bottom next to Mac Jones in air yards for target, ADOT, right? And I love that. And that's exceptional. Like you mentioned, like you saw that. I want to answer Jaws Whedon, man. He's been a faithful follower for the past 2 weeks, man. We love you, Jaws. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to answer this question. He's got Jimmy G and Watson, brother. I feel the pain. We all feel the pain with Watson. Just absolutely ridiculous. We're not going to mention anything about that. Like we're just going to. We're a fantasy show. I'm also, we're not going to talk about any of it. We're talking about fantasy football and fantasy football only. That's it.
Not Houston.
That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for.
Yes.
Jimmy G and Watson, man. I mean, I still like Jimmy G, and you're in a non-super flex league, so you have the 1.2, 1.7, 2.2, and 3.2. Brother, I'm going to tell you this right now. You listen to our show more often, and you will realize that we are running back guys. With the 1.2, you either take Najee or Travis. The 1.7, you go and get either Kyle Pitts or Javonte or Devontae or someone like that. And the 2.2, you take the best value quarterback right there because it don't matter when you have these guys in my mind. I'm going to let Ryan and Billy take it over right now, but that's where I'm sitting right now. The 2.2 is where you want to look for your quarterback in a non-super flex league in my mind.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Chris. The 1.2, it's got to be one of those top two running backs. The 1.7, I'm either getting Pitts or the running back that snuck through. That 2.2, being that I have Jimmy G, just to get a little bit more specific for you, Jaws, I would take whatever quarterback the Niners draft. I believe it'll be Mac Jones. Take him at the 2.2. That way, when the Jimmy G transition happens, you got the guy next in line too. Obviously, you invested in that offense already. There's a reason they're moving on from Jimmy G. Not this year. Let him bridge you while you got the other guys sitting on your bench. So that's where I would go to, that 2.2. Hopefully that Niner quarterback's there waiting for you. I'm sure Ryan will have a lot more for you. He's way more versed in Dynasty than myself, so good luck, man.
Yeah, you don't take a quarterback at 1.2. You obviously, I think we're all in consensus there. I am taking a quarterback at 1.7 though. I've been quarterback poor in Dynasty, and it's the worst thing you can ever imagine. And if Jimmy G gets hurt again, you don't have anybody. What if Mac Jones doesn't make it to 2.2? I mean, I think it's way too risky. Now, obviously, 1.2, unless you do. You can trade down the other thing too. You can trade down that 1.2.
There you go. There you go.
You can find another. Yes, because somebody's going to want Etienne and Najee, and that's who's going to go there. So if you can shop a little Najee or Etienne, you can end up getting like maybe the 1.6 and the 1.10, and then you can get a running back at the 1.6, and then at 1.10 you'll have a bit better chance. That'll be 4 more guys ahead to maybe get that quarterback. And then for me, you just figure out which one of these quarterbacks you like the situation. I always talk to, in dynasties, I always try to talk to a lot of the league owners and try to feel out where they're thinking. Most of the time they're lying, they're full of crap, but you can kind of get a general idea after the draft of where these guys are going to start going. Look at these guys' teams. Like, I don't know what your running back situation is. I know your quarterback situation is a big problem. So for me, oh man, if you have T-Law at 1.7, I'm not even blinking. I'm taking T-Law. I don't believe he's going to make it to 1.7 unless everybody in your draft is good on quarterback. T-Law likely goes before 1.7. It wouldn't even shock me to see him go 1.3. It just depends on which team's needs are what. But I don't think there can be anybody that needs quarterback more than you. So at 1.7, if I can get Lawrence, for sure. And if not, I'm going to take that 1.2. I'm going to find which one of those third running backs I really like. I'm going to move the 1.2 down and try to consolidate to get a quarterback and a running back out of that pick.
I really like that trade down idea. Here's why. If you end up with 2 of these later quarterbacks, say a Mac Jones, a Trey Lance, that kind of thing, you could be quarterback rich just as quick as you got in trouble this offseason. I like that a lot. I would trade back and try to invest heavy in the quarterback position just as a little insurance policy.
So this is where I'm going to add something in real quick. And I believe, Billy, you're with me because you're the one that said it, and I'm going to coin it. Najee is the one guy, don't matter where he lands, I want Najee on my team. Gotta have him. I don't think you can trade down the 1.2. No. At 1.2, I'm taking Najee no matter what. Unless the 1.01 takes him, then I'm taking ETN, right? I mean, you got to wait, right? If the 1.01 takes Najee, then yeah, you probably trade back. But if Najee's on the board at 1.2,
yeah, I agree.
Instant smash for me. And at that point, maybe I'm looking to trade up at the 1.7, adding the 2.2, adding something else. You know what, Josh? I want to do this for you, man. You've been great with us. How about you send us your roster, everything like that? We'll look it over, and we'll go in depth with you, man. We'll talk it through our DMs. You got some questions for us. We'll help you do this, man, because we want our listeners to win their leagues. And I guarantee you, you help us, we help you. Send us the screenshots of your team, what you're missing. That way we can get kind of a better look of what's going on. We can kind of assess the situation a little bit better, right?
Yeah, in reality,
I would be really upset if I traded back out of that 1.2 and they took ETN at 1 and Najee dropped to 2. I'd be really, really upset if I were to make that move. But I do like your point there. The 1.7 and that 2.2, and maybe a lower level player, you might be able to move up into that 1.4, 1.5 range, and maybe you do end up snagging a T-Law or Justin Fields or maybe even a Zach
And
Wilson.
Najee.
And Najee. You're forfeiting some of these later picks, but you can fill your holes right now and be in really good shape quick. You're in good shape, Josh.
I also think that it would only be a draft day trade if you trade down. And the other thing is, if you're going to be at 1.7, I would shop 1.7 for an established quarterback, because you are going to be in desperation mode if you have Jimmy G and he goes down and Watson's not in. Having no quarterbacks is 0 wins. You just can't do it. Not with what they score. And it's not like there's going to be a guy available on the waivers that you can just plug and play. So it would all be draft day for me. I can't trade it
for that 1.7, Ryan. What kind of guy would you target with that 1.7?
Me personally, I would. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're not going to get like a Dak or a Wilson. You might get a Wilson at his age. You might get somebody like a Wilson.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Send us everything you got on the roster. Send us your future picks, because obviously
send us the other teams too.
Yes,
I want to see the other teams.
It's very important too.
Yeah.
Send us everything you got on your league, man. We're going to diagnose this, and we'll talk to you about it on 1-on-1, just because you've been with us. So
we love doing that.
Yeah,
for sure.
And we'll move on forward though to.
I got you in Discord, Josh. Message. Actually, so let me look real quick.
I mean, you're on YouTube, Jaws? Yep. If you're on YouTube, I think that's what that thing is. Post it all in the comments, and we'll be able to see it on YouTube. If you want, sure. I can post my email in here too. You can send it all to my email real quick.
Yeah, let's get Jaws a ship, guys.
Let's do it.
You have a lot of capital. I think you can make that turn into a quarterback.
Jaws, my email is right there in the chat. Send over screenshots of everything to that email. Ryan, Billy, Tom, and I will dissect it over the course of the week, and we'll help you out leading up to the draft, man. We'll win you the ship. We will help you win the ship this year. I guarantee it, Jaws. Let's go, man. We're going to move on forward, though, to a guy that I just am not a fan of. We're Back. I love the movie. I don't like what he said. We're Back's a dinosaur movie. Out of Texas University, a senior, 6'2", 222 pounds, is a developmental third-string quarterback, Mac McCorkle. He doesn't even have a real name. It's like Adam, I don't know, but McCorkle Jones. The Longhorn offense helped him do what he did. The defense was good. The weapons were great around him. In my mind, he's super indecisive, doesn't have a lot of talent. Obviously he can score a touchdown. I give it to him. He's a gamer. He's like Baker Mayfield's redheaded cousin for me. I'm not even going to go over these stats with you because he ties some guys. He's played a lot of games in the Big 12. He's a son of Texas, which I always say give the juice to. But in the one Joker episode right now, Sam Ellinger, I'm done. That's too much. That's too much for me.
Yeah, I'm not bought in either, Pinto. He looked like a pretty solid college quarterback. I see, again, a little Colt McCoy, though not the same way that I do with Ramsey in the good way. I see it not in the good way. He plays relatively smart, but I think he's pretty lucky he didn't get picked more than he did. He made some questionable throws. He is relatively accurate, and he does look like he can read the defense, but I'm not impressed by anything that he does. I think he's a backup at best. I think that his ceiling is a backup. He didn't even make my top 12 or Billy's for that matter, and he only made you and Tom's 12. So for me, I think Ellinger has no future in the NFL. At best, he is a backup for the rest of his career. I'm not touching him.
Yeah, I'm with you guys too. Like Ryan said, didn't make my top 12, and he probably wouldn't make my top 15 or 18 even. I'm just not on this guy. I watched him play a lot. Yeah, he's had some really big games. He's had some really poor games too against inferior talent. And at Texas, look, man, your supporting cast is top notch. It's UT. It's just who they are. So it's really underwhelming for me. To me, he's a poor man's Tim Tebow, a worse Trace McSorley type player. I don't see a whole lot of a future for him in the NFL. If he even really makes a team, I just don't see his game translating well.
Yeah, we don't need to talk too much about him. I don't think he's very good.
Ditto.
Oh, God, I did it. Miles, you're right, man. The hate's real. Look, the only thing I will say is for my sister-in-law, Kaylee, is a graduate of TU. He is a gamer. He is a leader. He leads by example. Longhorn Nation loves him. If he comes to the Texans and is drafted by the Texans,
you'll still hate him.
No, I will. I will turn into Tom talking about Jalen Hurts, but that's how I will be with Sam Ehlinger.
That's
No
bad.
respect, no love, always hate. What are you talking about? He threw a touchdown. He should have thrown it the play before.
Yeah, he should have thrown
That's
two.
how I would be with Sam Ehlinger. Okay, that's how it's gonna be if he comes to the Houston Texans. Guys, we are flying, not really flying, but where we wanted to be, 2 hours, right? We're talking about our last quarterback, our 14th ranked quarterback, in Dustin Crum out of Kent State, the senior, who not a lot of people have talked about, not a lot of people have numbers and stats on or even care about, because he's a 6'3", 207 MAC quarterback, who, as everyone knows, the MAC canceled their football schedule at the beginning of the year because of health concerns, right? In my mind, the one player out of them, I mean, there's probably like 10 total players. There's offensive linemen, some DBs, right? But the quarterback out of the MAC that needs to be talked about is Dustin Crum, right? Whew. He's had, this is a little bit of fun fact, right? In 2019, 2 college starting quarterbacks had at least 18 passing touchdowns, but less than 2 interceptions. One guy that everyone knows is Justin Fields.
Oh.
The second guy, Dustin Crum, baby, Kent State. Crum, with his second year head coach, led Kent State to their first bowl win in program history. Crum is mobile. His measurements are good, right? Like, all across the board, his measurements are okay. He's kind of one of those guys. It's like, we mentioned the 80 across the board when you're building your Madden team. He's probably like a 76 across the board. A guy that's not going to light it up for you, but a guy that's very serviceable and can be your quarterback if you have great assets. A lot like a CMC, like in a Matt Rule type offense, which is the only place in my mind that he deserves to be because of what they have there. Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater, like just 2 mediocre game managers in my mind. But that's besides the point. Crum, in my mind, brings a really good ability to be mobile, but also have that quick snap and a little bit of not deceptiveness, but I guess like ingenuity, like craftiness. Like, he gets things done, like things that you're like, ooh, like not Patrick Mahomes level, but like, okay, that was cool. He did that. Okay, something like that, What do you guys think about Dustin Crum? Because this was the guy that I had ranked lowest, I believe, out of all of y'all on the list.
Yeah, I'm the only one that has him in my top 12. I have him at 11.
So why didn't Billy go first?
Okay.
Yeah, so Dustin Crum, not a guy I've had a lot of exposure to. Kind of did a deep dive in as we were going to talk about him today. But the stats are pretty impressive. He's obviously a pretty good runner. Completion percentage on the rise each year of his career, yards per attempt, QBR, all those things, steady progression across the board. And also that one big thing, that big E word, experience. He's been on the field for 4 years. These are all things I like. Looking at his rushing stats, they're really impressive. 700 yards rushing as a junior, 240 yards rushing, and 4 touchdowns last year in just 4 games played, as you mentioned, Chris, that COVID shortened season. So the guy's obviously an athlete. And if you look at another Kent State quarterback with a similar skill set, similar statistics, had a really nice career with the New England Patriots as a wide receiver in Julian Edelman, I see him having a similar type impact. He's going to make an NFL team. He's just that kind of athlete when you watch him play. Maybe not a quarterback, but I think he does have a decent NFL career. We're going to know about this guy for a while.
Yeah, I'm sold on the quarterback himself. When we came into this, I did not know who he was. And I am blown away his arm. I think he helps this class. Like in my notes, incredible arm, ... seriously incredible. He also has the touch. When you look, he's making all of the throws. He's a good enough athlete. He's not like an all-world athlete, but man, he runs really well for a guy that was clocked at like a 4.8. He seems faster than that. He plays very tough. He takes a lot of beating and just gets right back up and rolls. He is inconsistent, but not when it comes to interceptions. He barely has any of those, and he has the potential to make every single throw. He has done so. You can look at the film. He makes all of the throws. I question his deep ball accuracy, but I don't question his arm strength. I emphasize his toughness. This guy's a sleeper for me. He's another small school guy. Oh, nicely done, bro. That's pretty clever. But
Justin,
not the touch like
damn with the dagger.
Nicely done.
At 2 Brute.
When I look at Dustin Crum, I think that he's a guy that's going to probably, when it's all said and done, especially because I think he's going to get drafted higher than a couple guys we've mentioned, I think he winds up in all of our top 12 at some point. It's just the fact that he played at Kent State that I think is keeping everybody off of him. I also like to reiterate this year, 73.5% completion percentage. That's bonkers. He followed up a 69.3% completion percentage in 2019. He has a career 68.7 completion percentage through college. That's really, really impressive. Yeah, I mean, not many guys can say that.
No.
And then when you look at his 4 games to have 1181 and 12 touchdowns to 2 interceptions in 4 games, that's prolific. That is some
240 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns in those 4 games with all that.
That is that's 60 rush yards and a touchdown every game with 11 attempts. He's really, really good at football.
Almost Kellen Mond-esque.
Yeah.
I would argue that Kellen Mond. No, I won't argue anything. Because I just feel like the more we talk about Kellen Mond, the more publicity we're giving him, and I think nobody will be talking about Kellen Mond in 2 years.
I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, Crum, I do think that I won't be alone on this when it's all said and done, especially after the NFL draft. I think he's going to get drafted, maybe over a guy like Ellinger, I think for sure, and maybe 1 or 2 of these other guys. I think he gets drafted before them. I think his upside is – I have him as a sleeper for me. I think his upside is almost as high as any of those below those top tier guys. I think he's right up there with everybody else as far as upside.
That's fair, man. Ryan, read the private chat real quick. You got that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, we're going to do something a little bit special tonight. We've had a lot of buzz going around right now about the St. Jude Bowl that we're hosting. That's our 2nd annual St. Jude Bowl. We have a lot of support. But, Ryan, let everyone know how that happens, the prizes that are involved, how it's a little bit different than most of these fantasy tournaments are out here, and also a special announcement for 3 viewers tonight.
Right. So, guys, it's the St. Jude Bowl's back, baby. It's back bigger this year. It's got a lot more going on with it this year than last year. Way more different formats, a lot more people, a lot more money to St. Jude, and a lot more money to our winners. Forgive me if you've heard it before, but I'm going to say it again. It's going to get bigger. We're going to raise more money. Last year, we gave $1,200 to first place on a $20 entry. This year, it's going to be bigger than that. We already have almost as many people signed up as we had for the entire year last year, and the NFL draft hasn't even happened yet. This could crack 200, 300, 400, 500 people if we're not careful. We'll be really careful. Let's get to 1,000, seriously, because that is money in St. Jude's pockets, and that is money in the best of us pockets. All that we have.
We are second to none doing this anywhere right now.
No one did it before.
Nobody.
Nope. And we were, that's the thing, guys. We were talking about last, like obviously we're all like, Ryan and I were in a fraternity in college, and it's, you donate, right? It's all about a good cause. And we get to the fantasy football community, and that's what it is too. But then I'm like, well, who shows their chops? Who's the best of the best? Get it? Because I'm in a bunch of drafts, right? And a bunch of analysts that are out there, it's for charity, so they don't kick it up a notch, right? You wait till the 8-hour clock goes. Sometimes you even go past the 8-hour clock, and it's just not that important, because it's not saying it's not that important, but it's nothing in your pocket. We give something that gives you $1,000 in your pocket last year. This
minimum,
year it's going to be bigger. So you're on the clock and you're looking at it now, because everyone that was in a league with us last year knows how intense it was.
Yeah, it's awesome, guys. And again, we're going to have auction, vampire, guillotine, best ball. We'll have round 2 of the St. Jude Bowl we did last year. We're also going to have eliminators, pick'ems, and we're going to be tying into St. Jude as much as we can in every one of those formats. But we also want to make sure that the people that compete, if you win, you get some money for your time. So it makes it worthwhile. We're really excited. If you want to sign up, you see our Twitter handles at the bottom. You can message any one of us. You can message Fantasy First Rounders Live. Let us know. We'll get you on the list. As soon as the draft happens, the NFL draft, we're going to start filling these leagues. So if you want in and you want a guaranteed spot, you should holler at us ASAP. That way you can get a guaranteed spot in the league. Again, St. Jude is who we work with. It's a big deal. They do literal so much work for childhood cancer. I could not be happier with who we've paired with our charity. I can't think of a better cause than kids with cancer, guys. It's just crazy what they're able to do, going from 80% mortality rate to 20% since St. Jude has been a thing. So we're really excited to work with them. They were really excited to work with us again this year. I told them last year we were going to do it, and I don't know if they believed us. So when I said, hey, we're going to be donating a lot more money this year, they said, y'all will be back. I said, we're going to do it every year. Y'all need to get used to this. We're doing it every year. We're donating to St. Jude's, and every year we're getting bigger. We can't thank everybody enough who did it last year. And we cannot wait to, speaking for myself only, I love to get in every chat and talk smack and bounce ideas off. Yeah, I really do. I get so involved in every league. I'm not even in them. I'm just commissioning them. And I start smack talking these people. I just love the interaction that fantasy football brings. And we're all going to be in every league. We'll be able to bounce ideas about other different leagues. It'll be an easy way for you to get in touch with us, because I'm always on Sleeper, especially during football season. So you can find me there. Talk some smack. Tell me how stupid I am. Tell me how nice my hair looks, or whatever you want to do. But get in this league. This is the big league. Like, everybody knows about the big leagues. Like, shout out to Scott Fish. He does amazing work, charity there. We're trying to make this that. Like, not only do we put a bunch of money into the pockets of a charity, but we put a bunch of money into the pocket of the winner. And
it's like
that's
John Claude Van Johnson. It's like Kumite.
It's a win-win.
Not only are we going to do well and donate to charity, which the entire fantasy community does, but Billy, right, we're going to put some money in your pocket. Russell, out of your state of Iowa, won last year, and he put over $1,000 in his pocket.
1,200.
144 people involved last year from start to finish in our inaugural season getting kicked off. A $20 entry fee, but $1,200 in Rusty's pocket winning this thing. And we have everybody that was involved pretty much chomping at the bit to get back in this thing. It really was an awesome event, a ton of fun, a ton of interaction, way competitive, but classy folks that we've had. Luckily, a lot of people coming back. People want to win this thing, guys. This is a big deal. $1,200, a trophy, and a big old picture on Twitter showing you off that you won this thing. And I expect it to be at least double the size. We're talking close to 300 people you're going to be competing against. This is major bragging right stuff here.
Well, we're on the Rumboyz network now, so we're on a bigger platform. Obviously, it's a mixture of casual fantasy analysts, fantasy pros, all sorts of people. I mean, we had celebrities last year. Big Brother star Cliff Hogg joined us. Lindell Whirling joined us. Gabby Gowdy joined us. I mean, it's huge, right? But here's the caveat. Last year, we gave away some free spots. We actually had some guys who had some free spots crack our top 5 who were super, super close of getting free money because of their fantasy football prowess. A couple of our listeners, Justin and Scott and Marco, were in those top lists week on, week out, and they were one of our free guests because of the interaction they give with us. we need to start that this year again, since the draft is coming, and we're going to start filling these leagues up. I want to get some free people in here to have the opportunity to not only, win free money, but if they want, donate to St. Jude, right? Because they have a free entry. Not that that's a necessity at all, because we don't want that at all. We want the best fantasy person out there to win this thing. That's what I want. I want to go up against the best and play against the best.
Yes.
So the 3 people that we want to shout out tonight and give free entries to are Hutchinson Brown, the young fantasy mind, Jaws Whedon, a guy in our chat that's been there through and throughout, and then also happy birthday. Let's go, Pirate Crew. Let's go, FF Peacock Miles, man. Miles, Hutchinson, and Jaws, you got free entries into the St. Jude Bowl Part 2. Let's go, man. Make us proud. Let's go win some money for St. Jude and for you. Guys,
Absolutely.
It's been a great show tonight. One of my favorites.
Yes.
Where can everyone follow you at besides our little, obviously we can all see that, but Billy, kick us off. We'll go to Ryan and then I'll close this out. Where can they follow you at? Obviously, next week we're going to be talking about our famous running back situation. So, I know it. And hopefully we get Tom back next week, and it's going to be amazing. Billy, let's go, man. Where can we follow you at? What are you working on? Let's go.
Yeah, follow me at bwit24. Right now I'm really diving into these rookies, some of these guys that don't have a ton of exposure to. I really want to see, because this rookie class, the more and more I dig in, the deeper and deeper it is, especially that running back class that we hang our hats on so heavily here with the fantasy first rounders, RB heavy, baby. So that's just kind of where I'm at right now, what I'm doing. Excited to be part of the Rumboyz, get the St. Jude Bowl kicking off here. Come join us. This is going to be a huge event. You don't want to be on the outside looking in. We'll talk about it every week on the show. Shout out the leaderboard, all that kind of thing. Come be a part of it. It's definitely a game-changing event that we're kicking off here.
Yeah, again, like you said, you can follow me at Real Ryan Hicks on Twitter. Right now, I've been doing like crazy amounts of rookie studying as well. Been blown away. Tamari and Terry for Rookie of the Year. Just remember I said that now. He is. I get blown away. I can't stop watching film on him now. I can't even focus on anything else. But that's beside the point. I'm doing a lot of work on Dynasty, and really, I'm trying to get everything put into place. We've been group texting a lot about this St. Jude Bowl. We want to have all of the rules and everything for all these formats out publicly, so you know what you're signing up for, you know what you're getting into when you go into the draft. And then other than that, guys, just get at us on Twitter. We're on the SportsMe app. Find us there. Get in some arguments or debates or support us on there. And then again, we just really appreciate y'all coming on. It means a lot to us. We love talking football, and we love having somebody listen to us do it. So we're here to help. We're here to get you those ships, man. Like Pinto always says, we're here to win the ships. So whatever we can do to help you out, if that's a DM, if you want to talk trade, whatever you want to do, just holler at us, and we're all going to be more than happy to come talk football with you guys.
Sorry, I was just messaging our 3 winners for their free entries. Guys, you can always follow me at AggyCappaSig. You can DM us at the Fantasy First Rounders. Follow all of us and follow at Rumboyz Robbie. The Rumboyz network is growing, man. We got the Hustler, we got Herms, we've got the staple of Sven, we got Clock, Perry Assen, Unwrapped Sportsman, FF Peacock, who is rivaled to none at his artwork, and also just, his banter, man. Obviously a Houston Texans fan through and through. We love the Rumboyz network. We love everything they're about. Guys, peace, love, and chicken grease. Stats win ships. If the golden rule, man, if you got nothing good to say, don't say shit at all. Mute, block, whatever, man. Like, we're not on Twitter a lot because of the stuff, and I don't want to say too much about it because we don't want to get political. We don't want to get all that. We're here to win you fantasy stuff because that's what we're about. That's what we do. So tune into us every freaking Wednesday at the same time. We're always consistent. We're always going to give you the good advice, and always, 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 stats win you ships. Good night. This was the Fantasy First Rounders.